welcome to another edition of No Fluff, No Stuff. I am Reverend Harsh Sheffield III. Last week, I was indomitable, incomparable. This week, I'm just who I am. And, of course, on the other end, that's Major General and her Army fatigues,
Yes.
Stephanie Bennett.
Ready for
She's
war.
fighting the good fight.
Yep.
Well, faith, got her helmet of salvation on, breastplate of righteousness, sword of the Spirit,
This
or
man
like
is
some
preaching.
saints say, sword of the Spirit.
Thank you, Jesus.
And of course, over there,
Swiping.
doesn't have enough hair that, like Donald Trump, so he can't hide them spots.
What?
Well, this is in order. This is a process.
I understand. I understand. I mean, don't keep it all covered. Leave some of it showing. Andre Ash,
so wild.
the reporter, and over here is Myra Epps. This is Stephanie's sister, older sister.
No,
You the baby?
no, I'm right up under Steph.
Yeah, but she's the oldest.
You
Never
right up
mind.
under her.
Yeah, you 13 months apart.
Well, please clarify that because
Well,
that
I'm
could
not
have
up
a
under
different
her.
meaning, you know.
Okay, all right. I see
Okay.
where this show is going.
Oh, the boundaries.
All right, what are we talking about, young man?
We are talking about a couple.
Oh, I'm
a couple
sorry. I
things.
should say young man because you're not that young anymore.
I am.
Huh?
I had a birthday this week.
Not
I'm
with a
still young.
fading hairline.
Happy
birthday!
Thank you very much. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
I hate to be cruel today, but if you were in grade school and your head looked like that, if we were in geography, I'd say here's the globe right here.
Look,
You gonna have to fight back
let me tell you something. I am undergoing a process
now. Okay.
Yes.
Really?
of hair restoration.
Thank
Yes.
you, Jesus.
And like God does, He restores.
All right.
He replenishes.
Why are you worried about hair anyway?
He
Why is
wants
it
some
such a
hair.
big
Because
deal?
He like his hair.
Right.
Why are people so concerned about having or not having hair?
Why are
It's
people so
image.
concerned about your business?
Oh.
And
I
that's
hear
what we'll
you.
get to when it comes to boundaries.
Yeah, well,
On today's show.
I just really want to just ask that
shut me
question.
down.
because you know
I was about to go in
You know
about
what gets
hair.
me about hair? I mean, your ladies' hair look wonderful, but I mean, women have this hair all the way down their back, right? And it's sewn in or whatever it is. What's that called? Lace front or whatever. And they do this all day.
That's because we need to. Your hair is
No,
your
I'm just
glory.
saying, it's like you want us to notice that the hair is there.
No, I
Well, we
don't
gotta
want you
just
to
move
notice,
it
but it's a
around.
part of my image.
Right. Well, I decided I'm gonna save some money on my DTE bill this summer.
Okay.
With my air conditioner, I'm gonna buy about 12 women I know who had these long eyelashes over. I'll have standing in my bed with just bat their eyes. There's a breeze in
Oh
here.
my God.
Good luck on your hair.
Andre,
Johnny.
what are you
Okay.
doing?
I appreciate it.
Yeah. What are you doing?
Well, so I'm coming up with the show.
Okay, well I'm saying, but go ahead with it. I
Right?
mean,
Well,
you know,
you want to talk about
I
hair.
thought you got thrown
Why
aside
he
by
get Cuban
hair.
haircuts? Okay.
Right. So let's talk about this teacher who has now been fired. That's the latest update for his interaction with his students that some say, well, it's a bit of mixed reaction. He has the students in his classroom, mostly females or young girls, unbraiding his hair. And also doing
But
his
it
nails.
wasn't his class. It was during his prep period or something. So let's straighten that out. It wasn't during the actual classroom time.
Okay.
But it was in the school building.
It was in the school
hours.
building.
Yeah. Well,
young
underage,
girls.
your girls.
And people are now saying, how far is too far? Does this
Correct.
cross the line when it comes to professionalism? People are saying, you know what, if you want to get your hair done, you should go to a salon or to a barber shop. You shouldn't be allowing your students to do your hair and then to post it on social media. Now, here's the backdrop and context. This teacher, some would say, or some are saying, he's a very engaged teacher. His students love him,
So
and
cool.
they look to him because he inspires them, and he also, persuades them into the right direction of life, and also educationally as well.
They
He's a
can't-
video creator,
Yeah.
and so you got to think about it.
And none of that will he be able to do anymore with them because he was fired.
Well, exactly. But some are saying, well, maybe the firing went a bit too far.
Well, can I say something real quick about this?
Yeah.
And I really thought about this. I talked to 2 or 3 people last night. We live in an era where people's worldview influences everything. So Stephanie can be doing something that has nothing related to what people perceive it to be. You follow me? So all this sexualization that we live in, the inappropriateness seems to suggest that there's something unethical going on here.
Absolutely.
Right? Are you with me? Like there's something more than just benign affection or benign connection.
be.
Huh?
It gives the
Could be.
appearance
Right,
of,
and because of what we see everywhere else, what we hear about, and quite frankly, because of people's experiences. They say almost 70% of African American females have been sexually abused in some degree by relatives and friends of families. So we live in a world that everyone sees things through a sexual lens.
But was it sexual that he was? Was it anything
I don't know
sexual
if it
he was
was or
doing
not.
on camera?
I don't
in
know.
the moment. in
I
which-
don't know if there was or not, but I just want to say to you that we have to also pull back the furor of people who like to read stuff into things.
So what that's got to do with him?
Because I think they read stuff into everything. I mean, and he's partly a victim of that to some degree as well. It could be completely innocent what he was doing.
It probably was, but the whole thing is the issue of boundaries. And when we talk about morals, when we were growing up, it was, even to approach our teacher, we had to call them Mr. or Mrs., right? To have the conversation. You was not going in their cars. They were not taking you home after, you weren't eating lunch with them personally. There were certain boundaries because morally we have put those things, and now we're in a day and time where you could just walk up and unbraid your teacher's hair. I don't care if you are. That's just wrong. I don't even care if it's not anything sexual. That's a boundary. That's my.
So what was it about them assisting him? Because the context is, again, social media. He was creating a post. Is that not right?
Right, and this is in line with a lot of his other video creations on social media that engages young people, including his students, educationally and life lessons in other ways as well. But this also reminds me of the Detroit teacher who was fired for being a rapper and doing music videos with her students. But some looked at that as engaging, and that she wasn't really doing anything wrong. But perhaps
I think those are two different things. So I'll put those in two different buckets. Because I agree with you, Horace, that we can look at this and say either something sexual could be going on, or I can be grooming you
For later use.
For later use, okay. But at the same time, let's just go back to him as an individual and as a professional, as a teacher. You're an example. I wish I would go into my 9-to-5 job and take this wig off and start taking down my braids. Like, there is no way in the world. They gonna say you
Human
use your
resources.
PTO. Absolutely. Painting my nails. You go do that on your lunch break. I don't care if this is your prep period. Go do your hair somewhere else. So from that standpoint, as a professional, as a teacher, as an example, as an influencer of young people's minds, I cannot set that tone to say we're going to be this comfortable and casual. No, we're going to take my hair down in the middle of class and I'm going to finish my shift. Absolutely not.
So what do you think? Was there anything positive he could have been teaching them?
Absolutely not. You teach them that.
It was on the job training. They can all go out and get
If
paid
it
to
was
let hair down.
cosmetology school, then maybe. But this is not cosmetology.
And the
I-
issue
I-
of grooming is a huge
And I
thing.
wish I would
I-
let my daughter, I have daughters, and if I seen that, I would be livid. Because
Livid.
too, why is my daughter this close to you? She shouldn't be taking your hair down. Like, how is that her responsibility? And then I'm gonna tell my daughter, that's a grown man. You don't need to be in that grown man space like that.
Yeah.
Know your place. You are a child.
Well, I think we got a really surprising point of view coming from Andre.
No, I think my point of view
Is what?
My point of view is I completely, to some extent, agree with what you're saying, but I'm like half foot in, half foot out, because we're living in an age and time where a lot of these young kids in the younger generation are not paying attention or not listening to the status quo of teachers back in our day or back in my time growing up in the 90s. They have a lot of, and then first, it's hard to even find teachers who will to hire to get in the classroom because,
Absolutely.
because
So-
it's
that's
a
a
low
whole
here's a
paying
big-
job.
That's
yeah.
you're right.
Students
It's
don't listen to
taxing,
you.
right.
They get into fights
So
with
here-
you.
here-
So isn't it great that you have a teacher who has the respect of his students and is creative in different ways, including video content and social media,
Yeah.
that he has their attention and that he's not fighting with his kids. And now to
Yeah.
fire the teacher when you're able to find teachers to hire in the first place.
There's an,
I think that's-
an exacerbation of what could be considered a violation, right? That has preempted a more severe consequence as warranted. Can I break that down for you? We live in an era of social media, so all of us having opinions about it, thinking that it was inappropriate, has basically ruined the career of an otherwise good teacher. Now, if that teacher made some mistakes or needed some chastising or some correction, he's not going to have an opportunity to get that because it's gone viral. Yeah. You follow what I'm saying? We live in an era now where companies and people will have knee-jerk reactions because what's been posted, what's been seen, and they feel like public condemnation and pressure is going to be so severe if they don't do something radical that they jump to conclusions that are much too far. I mean, this guy's a good teacher. What happened to progressive discipline? Your mama didn't hit you upside your head the first time you did something right. She may have put you in your room. She may have taken some privileges away from you. But here's a guy otherwise known as an exceptional teacher, right?
Yeah.
Who loses his job absolutely
I think
over
firing
one
is
thing.
too far. I think firing was too far.
Yeah, because if you fire him, then you got to fire a lot of my teachers who put out their ruler and whipped us in the closet.
Yeah, but all that's been ended. But what about teachers who tell you ain't nothing? You know, your mama's a nut, and I mean, some of these teachers, the way they talk to these kids is unbelievable.
Yeah, and that's why when you find a teacher who has the respect of his students and he used creative ways to engage them, I think it was a step too far to fire him, despite it going
But here's the
viral.
thing too, having taught, right? You file lesson plans. I mean, things that you do with those kids. If there's any question about whether or not it's acceptable, you have a conversation with your lead teacher or whoever that person is in the building that you would clear that by, right? I mean, I think minimally that's something he should have ran by somebody else. One of the things I think we all have to do, and you know, Stephanie, you're in the public eye, you are to a degree, but certainly Andre and I, is not how we see things. It's how all the other millions of eyes are going to see them.
Yeah.
And you've got to talk through that to see whether or not your perception of how it will be received is accurate.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that is very true.
I think
Yeah.
we all have a responsibility. And if you are going to be a social media content creator, you know that you are subjecting yourselves to the world's opinions. And to your point, everybody's not looking for it to be the same. Now, I'm not posting something thinking, oh, everybody's going to agree. However, I think it is our responsibility to look at it from both sides of the coin. I'm a professional. I'm a black man in America. I can't do everything that everybody else does. I'm rare. I'm going to create this content. These are young ladies that are going to be taking down my hair. So whether you got all the context and I'm going to purposely post this on my page,
But Myra,
knowing there's a possibility,
I have a question for you. I want you
responsibility.
to delve in a little bit deeper. When you said, you know, if your daughter was that close to him and touching him, I mean, what is it about this having interpersonal interaction today, touching folks, that always jumps to it having being inappropriate?
Because as a young lady, you have to be mindful of uncles, daddies, cousins, anybody else, and nowadays even women in that space. And you have to teach them how to be around people. As a young lady,
I disagree.
They have immature. No, they have
disagree because-
immature affection. They don't even know what
We
to do
don't
with
know,
that.
right.
But if
so
it was
that's
a
so
woman, this is the
impressionable.
unfairness
See,
part
that's
of it.
my whole
This
point.
is
I'm
what
gonna cut you off.
unfairness is about.
But that's my whole point. Both of you all are suggesting a prima facie context here that the just any form of interpersonal interaction and touch has some potential
I'm not saying
sexual.
that it has to be
Isn't
sexual.
that what it sound like to you?
Right, but however,
I
what
am
I'm saying
leading to
too,
that.
what I'm saying is space. Stay in a child's place.
Yeah.
That is your teacher. There, when we talk
Until
about
you
But no,
mature
that's
enough.
no.
I
Hold on. Don't
disagree,
take it.
because if it
Don't,
was a
don't take it to
woman-
that. That's a whole nother place.
If it was
even-
a
even
woman
a deacon at
teacher,
the church.
if it was a woman teacher, we would not be having this conversation.
Oh,
guess
we
what?
sure
we
will.
would not. We would
sure
not.
will.
yeah,
We would be
maybe-
so embraced.
I don't think so. I think if it was.
My
I think if it was.
daughter too, because
yeah.
again, you got PTO. Get your hair done somewhere else. Unless this is a cosmetology school and
But
we
Andre,
ran out of
Andre,
little dummies
let's
and
not-
hair.
let's not
My
let-
baby ain't going to school to take her teacher's hair
But
down.
let
'cause
no,
I'm gonna have a
hold on.
problem with her.
Let's not let y'all off the hook, because what you're doing, you jump from one platform to another. Let's get back to the notion of whether or not people read into every kind of interpersonal reaction. Some
let me
kind.
tell you
Let
why,
me finish. Some kind of sexual reality associated with it. That it's not possible for those girls to take his hair down and be close to him, and there not be some sexual innuendo or some potential sexual outgrowth. And I'm gonna tell you why people feel that way. Because kids today are sexualized.
They
5 and
are
6 years of
sexualized.
age.
Exactly.
And so that's the point. But to also go back to your point that you proved statistically that 70% of young girls have been touched and molested. And so because
So
of that
there's a
statistic, in fact,
Okay.
that young 30% that we trying to protect, we need to change that. And because our girls are being put and groomed in these situations
But
to have their guards down.
If that's not the case with him, though, is it possible? That
It's very
Is it
possible.
possible that them girls were having some sexual
very
imagination,
possible. Oh, no, 'cause
rubbing
these-
his hair?
No, these girls
Exactly.
are more vicious than guys
They-
at
and
times.
they want that.
Maybe they had in their ear pods. Turn out the lights.
They
No,
just
and
may
they just
have.
might
Come
have.
closer.
And that was my point. That was my point.
I mean, but can you have that visualization or feeling without you braiding his hair too?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Listen,
Absolutely.
you know.
I just think if it was a woman teacher, we would not be having this conversation.
I think the world would've been a little more generous.
Okay, let me
However, as a
let me tell you the
parent, I
truth.
still would
I'm
have
gonna
a
tell you what
problem.
I think. I think that the potential was even greater. You know why? Because I'm a principal of a school and I deal with hearings all the time, and a lot of them are sexually related, and they're more involved with boys
Yep.
trying to be sexually interact with girls. So I think if them young boys were doing a beautiful black woman's hair, they might have been trying to coot them from behind.
Absolutely. And because again, you're dealing with a immature mindset. You have to put boundaries. You have to put things in place to even protect yourself, protect the teacher. Like I'm saying, the teacher has made these relaxed environments, and then these girls, and then what's gonna happen? Then they get in court, and then he gonna be like, "Oh, I don't know what happened. She just came on to me." Well, we know it happened.
Yeah, but I
If
don't
these
think
were
I don't think
women-
there's any evidence here that that's the case for him. I want to make one point, and go ahead, Andre, and that is again, it's called progressive discipline. And if this teacher otherwise was a good teacher, great rapport with his students, parents thought he was doing a wonderful job, all of that,
Some of them do.
to fire him immediately is wrong. Now this teacher has no way of going anywhere else, maybe possibly. Why not say to him, this is a corrective action. This is what you should have done instead of that.
I
And
can give you that. I'm not
if
fighting
these
with
were
you,
young girls braiding or unbraiding a female teacher's hair, we won't be talking about this.
I can give
No,
you that, but I have a problem.
it's the same sexual dynamic potentially exists.
And I just don't,
Probably,
it's
yeah.
just not a good look. In a professional setting, it is just not a good look.
So you're saying teachers and students should stay in each other's lane and in each other's space.
If you want them to take down your hair, you do that after hours.
Boundaries.
She's saying that the school is not a place for hair to be
It
done.
is
Boundaries.
not.
Boundaries.
Absolutely. But like
She'd have a
Stephanie
problem
said,
if the female teachers were in the lounge taking his hair down.
Well, on this topic of boundaries and we stand in each other's space,
By the way, why don't you just pay to have it done?
well, I guess he was getting it for free this day.
That's what I'm saying. So
that's why
now
I'm
we're
mad.
talking about
Don't be
child
using my
labor.
bad.
We're
That's
talking
why
about
I'm
child
mad.
labor laws now,
be
right?
working my baby.
I really do think it was innocent. You know
I
what I'm
do
saying?
think it
If
was
we all
innocent.
look at it, I think it was innocent.
If you
but
see his other
again,
videos, it's
I
like,
can't.
I just think
but
it was a bad
as a
decision.
parent, I just think it's
Okay,
it's horrible.
let's just put this to rest. You ladies come over here and help me with my hair.
and then help me with mine. Speaking of boundaries, parenting is a new age thing as well nowadays.
Right.
And how do you stay in a child's place? Well, many oftentimes are now this whole saying of my parent or is like my best friend, or parents are saying their kids are now their best friends. But I have the old school thinking that my parents would say, I'm not your friend.
right.
I won't be your friend, and I'm your parent. And do we see this connection between the soft parenting and hard parenting, and the correlation between how society is behaving based on parenting nowadays?
100%.
And so, how do we stay within a certain boundaries when it comes to what we can say to our parents and what we cannot?
Well, I'm older than all of you all.
No.
So one of the things I always thought was so funny and probably on the borderline of abusive is that when you got the hell beat out of you and you holler and scream and cry, they tell you, shut up, don't, be quiet. If I hear another peep, now here you are whipping my butt and I'm supposed to not even say a word.
Say a word.
I mean, I grew up in an era, man, where, the psychological part of it, you had to go pick your own switch. And, and if the switch wasn't sufficient, you got a worse whipping. If they had to go get one, they got a limb. You know what I mean?
Thank goodness there were no trees in my
But
backyard.
and by the way, all of that stuff today is considered child abuse.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it's the reason we are who we are today. I mean, although to be perfectly honest with you, I never spanked my children at all. I never put my hand on them. I got enough whippings and beatings from even my great grandkids.
And look how you turned out.
But I'm saying to you, but it made me behave. It made me defiant, quite frankly. I became more aggressive. I was a strong-willed child, right? And we got to be careful because some of this stuff really breaks the will of children. I mean, I just don't buy it. And I think even worse is when people call them names. I mean, I've heard parents say some things to parents, to their kids that I just can't even imagine coming out of my mouth.
So, but that's the extreme end of parenting, right? But it seems as if we're living in a society where that is almost a bit too
soft,
soft,
Yeah.
and thin-skinned, where parents and their kids are becoming almost so
Besties.
close, besties, to where we're seeing it reflect in today's society where kids don't respect authority because they definitely aren't afraid of their parents. So why would they be afraid of a school teacher or a police official or whomever?
Yeah, it starts in the home.
The parenting and authority starts at home.
I think it's getting harder just because the way that the family dynamic is set up now is just changing. So it's no longer this traditional household where you think traditional households is a mother and a father, 2-parent home, and then we all live happily ever after. Well, now we might have 2 mamas, we got 2 daddies, we might have a throuple. I mean, now people is in love with animals and dogs.
But what
and
now?
cats.
Throuple?
Yeah,
What's a
it could be 3
throuple?
of us. It's all 3,
Oh.
sister wives. It's like everything is so socially acceptable.
Mormonism, huh?
Yeah. And
Well,
now,
that solves a lot of problems,
and I
wouldn't
think
it?
too, to Rev's point, the way that we were brought up and in that day, it's like I don't want my kids to feel that way. So my son and my daughter, they have a voice. I want to listen to them. They have feelings, and I want them to express themselves, and I want them to express themselves what they want to drink and what they want to eat. And while I agree some of that is valid, I even had to look at one of my daughters one day like, oh no, you're talking back. Because I find myself sometimes
That's right.
saying, I said what I said because I'm your mother. Like,
Yeah.
it's still my responsibility to be the head of this
So I don't think they should be able to
rear.
browbeat us out of the
Yes.
position that we
But
take.
they may
Right.
not need a beating. They
Yeah.
may need more talking to, but I still think that you have to use good
part of skill.
judgment
But-
to be
but-
the mother, to be the parent.
and you
It's your
got to have
responsibility to
authority.
raise them.
And what gets me is, to his point, I fly a lot. And some of these kids are so out of order playing, and it just irks me to hear parents say, "Tommy, please stop. Tommy, please sit down. Tommy, don't do that.
Pet
Tommy,
peeve of
when you
mine.
gonna stop?" I
me
mean,
time.
are you kidding? I mean, snatch that child, shake him, and say, "Sit the hell down."
Yes, for
You know,
real. I agree
Right.
with
And that's not a whooping, but that's using your authority as the parent.
That's what I think that
Yeah.
we're missing. Now, I do have an older child too, and so parenting an adult is different. So I have, even with my niece, Stephanie's daughter, like I called her the other day, I was like, oh, me and Ari sat on the phone, we gossip like good girlfriend. But Ariel also
She's 21
knows, she's
years
21,
old now.
and my son is 22. So, but I also know that there is a moment where we'll talk and we go gossip. However, there's still a line.
And she's not calling
And
you
so
Myra. She's still gonna call you
calling me
auntie.
auntie. And we'll talk, but it's still only so
Yeah.
far that we gonna go. And she still will respect my authority if I have to raise up
and so,
and say something different.
and so
it's
the
a
other
good line.
generations knew exactly what they were doing. So I was talking with Lomas Brown today about Robert Porcher, who I love to death. And Robert to this day calls me, says yes sir, no. Robert Porcher, yes sir, no. So, No, sir. I mean,
I agree with that.
we were raised that way,
Yeah,
right?
still do.
And I mean, crazy stuff. You know, I got one of the worst whippings in my life because I went next door to my grandma's house and went upstairs in the person's house. You didn't go upstairs to people's home. You sat in the room and you didn't move until
That's
they told
right.
you to move. So we've lost a lot of that. The imposition of the belt and beating, that's a whole nother issue. But you're talking about boundaries. The kids don't have any boundaries now. All those boundaries has been done away with. Probably because many of us said when I have my kids, I ain't gonna do what my
something
parents did. But it's exactly what they did that made us who we are.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, when I have my kids, the belt and the beating is going to be an option on the table. Now, if I don't ever have to do it,
Don't say beatings now.
they-
You ain't gonna beat them.
Well-
you gonna corporate punishment or whatever.
I am going to discipline them and have all options of discipline on the table. That's
I
what
mean,
I'm gonna
it's
say.
always
Well,
an
you know
option.
they use ironing cords.
That's right. Anything
When
they
I
can
came
get
up,
their hands
yeah,
on.
and my grandmother's niece
Hangers.
would put them on the bed butt naked and use that ironing cord. Back then, in those days, the ironing cord you pull it out. You know, I
I
mean,
think that would be different than how my parents.
Did you ever get spanked?
disciplined me.
Seriously?
Oh, many times.
I don't buy
And,
that.
and let me tell you, my mom was the belt law in chief of the. You know, she had a belt ready for me anytime. You know, my dad didn't really whoop me per se as many. He gave me the talking to,
Yeah.
and that's all I really needed from him.
Oh, my
He probably
God.
whooped me once,
Yeah.
but my mom, I mean, so many times. I think how it will be different is, I think I would communicate with my child more and listen to them. They wouldn't have a say in everything,
Yeah.
but it's definitely if I don't have to whoop you, because that's too much energy to pour too. But if I have to,
And that's
So-
not the. I don't think that's the only option,
Jesus.
because to your point, I think that is kind of where it did progress when you talk about levels of discipline, because every child is different. Every child doesn't need that.
Absolutely.
Some
Yep.
strong-willed children, you don't have no choice, because I
So-
think sometimes you got to insert yourself and show your authority. But
So
at
let
the
me
same
tell you what
time,
parents are
sometimes you don't.
responsible for. Our failure, I'm gonna wax eloquently here. Our failure to discipline our children in the ways we would discipline is why we have this conversation about what's going on in the church and what's happening in the world.
because there's lack of order.
Absolutely. So you're right, Andre. If they don't have to answer to the folks who brought them in the world,
Yep.
and the people who would tell us, "I brought you here and would take you out,"
Yep.
and they don't get it there, where they gonna get it from?
Absolutely, I
Yeah,
agree.
you don't hear that anymore. I brought you in, I'll take you out.
And they need to hear that a
And they
little bit
need
more.
to hear it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, we've lost so much. We've lost so much in our quest of materialism, and and I say this because I don't buy that notion. Your parents working two jobs. You know, my mom and dad worked. You know, the whole time I was coming up, my great aunt, my grandmother's baby sister, who also lived to be in excess of 100, lived in our home. But when they laid the rules down, they had the enforcement mechanisms that even if they weren't there, and you ran into some folks who didn't have what you had,
That's right.
whose parents weren't as strict as your parents were, you knew that you wasn't going to do what they was doing because
Right.
whether he got it or not, you know what you had coming, right?
Exactly. And you had neighbors that, had a little say too.
Man, let me tell you something. My daddy had this saying. He said, "There's two things you should fear, huh? Me and God."
That's right.
And he said, "And I'm gonna get to you before God will." So,
Because that's true to this day. I mean, I'm grown. And
You what now?
I'm grown. Like I'm real.
how old are you?
Twice.
I'm grown.
How old are you?
I'm 43.
Oh, you
I'm
on
grown.
your
I
way.
have my own house. I have
Well,
my
how
own
old is
bills.
Stephanie?
44.
Oh, I'm young. I'm 27. I'm 27 for the rest of my life. I'm
All
27.
right.
Are you older than her?
Yes, I am.
13.
That's not possible. You know how I've been telling people you 30, 34, 35 years
My
old?
God.
Oh,
Look
I
at
said the
spirit
same
of
thing.
youth.
Huh?
Thank you.
Youth be unto you, woman.
Yeah.
Of God.
Yeah.
So how old
I'm
are you
so
again?
young. I'm 27.
All right, here's the thing.
The
Speaking of
boundaries.
time, we're just about out of time. We have a boundary of time, and we appreciate you watching No Fluff, No Stuff. So glad to have my consummate friends here. I want to say we send a prayer out for my good friend Stephanie, my personal sister, and for anybody anywhere going through anything, we know somebody can do something about everything. Lift your eyes to the hills to which come the help. God is able to do exceedingly abundantly. And let me just tell you something. It's that the works of God might be made manifest. Everything you're going through is for other folks to know who brought you through so they can get through as well.
No boundaries on what God can do.
No question. See ya.